The other news that kind of broke this evening, from a journalistic standpoint, I know you'll have a point of view on this one as well. The sad passing of James Lawton, who was his work was published in the Irish Independent, and year's most recent, a journalist of great long standing. I know on Mondays, I think it was, and my dad used to get the Indo every day, but I think it was Mondays his pieces used to be published back in the day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it'd always go straight for those, because it'd always be just a guaranteed good read.
He had a real fan base, and yeah, I mean, in more recent years, he had just been writing primarily for the Irish Independent, and in fact, like in today's paper, there was a sort of a blurb previewing his column for tomorrow. I think he'd been living in Italy in recent years, since he sort of retired from the English sort of beat. Yeah. But yeah, like a sort of an amazingly good sports writer, sort of mastered the difficult art of being able to be incisive and critical without being sort of vindictive or sensationalist, you know, and striking that balance right and sort of intelligently articulating every point, and as a result was like hugely respected, not just in football. I mean, he was a chief sports writer, he wrote books on boxing. I saw people giving tributes across various sports. Earlier, this is a great piece he wrote in Cheltenham, someone else pointing out he did great previews of the Masters every year in Augusta. So he was an all-rounder who did, you know, had a real sort of the readers had a loyalty to him. And I know even in our case, in the end, I mean, I only met him once. I can't proclaim to know him in any way, but our desk, you know, people in our sports desk would speak to him, you know, on a weekly basis, and readers, more to the point, would engage with him and actively seek out his work. And yeah, I mean, it's sad. I guess he probably did fit the definition of old school, but then sometimes like that almost sounds like it's insulting when it's not. He was like a sort of a traditional old scribe who was, it was about his skill and his words rather than sort of seeking a reaction or doing anything like that for any of his work. It was very much sort of an authentic.
There seemed a bit of weight behind his writing. You kind of get that. You got that with
gravitas.
McIlvannis, a bit of gravitas. Brian Glanville is probably of that generation as well. We're not going to see those likes again.
No,
you're not up there, Dan. I'm sorry to say, not just yet. Anyway, but
but yeah, I know what you're saying. It is. I don't think you will never have these figures will never be created again.
Doyens.
You know? No, the Doyens. They were probably. It did emanate from a time where they were the only voice, and I mean, now everybody has a voice, so there is an element of that, but also, I mean, he was also just sensationally good and like able to deliver stuff that was fresh, as I said, and analytical, and, you know, not being afraid to call stuff out and to go against the grain, but in a way that it wasn't just deliberately a case of doing that. It was you know, really good stuff. And, you know, as I said, in recent years he'd maybe scaled back a bit more, but I know, I just know from speaking to people in our office that there would still be a good reaction to his pieces, and he was still, from a slightly bit more of a distant remove now, was still delivering some really good stuff.
Well, even the very fact that you're forward setting to a piece he's going to have in the paper tomorrow, like,
yeah, it's something I'm writing with Mourinho and Pogba, and just like it's a remarkably sort of sudden passing in that context. You know, someone who was still actively doing it. So I think it will, you know, the passing will mean something to people, even just by seeing the early responses, that he was someone that the people would seek out and read. And I'm sure now, sort of in tribute, people will sort of be seeking out those old pieces and realising how good he was if they weren't aware already. Yeah,
he's literally just his name got thrown back in front of me as well this week. I rewatched One Night in Turin, and a lot of the paper cuttings around Bobby Robson in 1990.
Oh, yeah.
Before that as well, kind of get thrown. And one of his is one of the more scathing at the time as well. And I remember looking at it going, geez, I didn't think Lawton was that cutting. I knew he was a good writer, but he was probably having a go, Robson.
Yeah, and he also, I mentioned it, so I definitely recall him being on News Talk a couple of times. Yeah. I think he was on doing a piece at Hillsborough, which sprung to mind, and he was there, and, you know, he'd sort of been witness to some sort of, you know, pretty seismic events, and yet still managed to sort of articulate it very well. So there's not much more you can say, or just it's really sad news. And I suppose if people haven't read his work before, maybe the younger audience perhaps seek it out now and read some good sports writing, because that's what he did.
Definitely, you'll find lots of it online. James Lawton, a very, very sad passing.